Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Brand Muse interview series. And today I am here with Laura Pearman, who is an
Hello.
internationally famous headshot photographer. And Laura loves serving the world, being a photographer, and sharing her wild ideas and infecting people with new levels of confidence. And you can usually find her dancing and singing out of tune to old songs as she works on in her home empire in northeast of the UK. So with that, Laura, welcome.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on the show.
So Laura and I met at the Youpreneur conference, I believe, probably at the first one 2 years
That's
ago.
right. Yeah.
And Laura, you were hired by Chris, right, to be a photographer at that event, or were you just attending?
No, I had worked with Chris on some headshots earlier that year, so he had told me all about the event, and we were hanging out doing his headshots in San Diego. So he was like, "Yeah, you've got to come." So we kind of developed it from there, and I was like, "Hey, do you mind if I work with some of the speakers?" And then the rest is history. So I wasn't officially like the Youpreneur official photographer. There's another guy who does a brilliant job at that. I don't want to step on his toes, but this year and last year and the year prior, I go in and I work kind of privately with the speakers and then the delegates as well.
Cool. So when did you join Youpreneur?
Straight after the inaugural event.
Ah, and so did I. And so you've been a member since, I guess. Are you still?
Yes, I
Okay.
have. So I joined, and I have to say, I went into the academy or the online academy, and I was blown away with how successful some people are in there. So then I sat back for about 3 months and thought, am I good enough to join this crew of amazing people? And then this year, I've made a little cute pact with Dr. Dan Maggs and a couple other Youpreneurs that every month on the first, we hound each other, like on DMs, usually on Instagram, saying, have you done your growth record? So every month we are on it this year, and we all want to see like a really good return, and just kind of stay accountable, I guess.
Absolutely. I'm a big proponent of that. I have a couple mastermind groups, one of which is an outcropping of a Youpreneur mastermind I was part of. Meet on video conference every Friday, same thing. Set goals,
Yeah.
report on what we did for the last week and hold each other accountable for the last week. So tell us a little bit about your business.
Sure. So I am a branded headshots photographer. You are incredibly au fait with what it is to be a personal brand. But I think generally speaking, in the world, especially within the entrepreneurial world, this is still relatively new in terms of how you sell yourself and how you put yourself at the front of your business. But that is my niche. That's what I specialize in. I work with entrepreneurs or CEOs, depending on how they identify themselves, and we tell their story of what they do and how they do it through the headshot. So I know you get a lot of photographers who want to capture like the reality. I feel like I'm the other way. I want to really choreograph and orchestrate a very considered story. So that's my vibe.
So you do heavy-handed art direction?
Yes.
So do
I
you?
would like to say that I am like a brutal film director on set, but I have suppliers who work for obviously for the client, but they are fully prepared, and we synchronize all of our social media, that kind of thing, for the client. So it was kind of changing the idea of a headshot into this branded marketing experience that everybody broadcasts about. It makes the idea of being on the shoot a part of their marketing plan.
So do you have a particular style, or are you a chameleon depending on what the client needs?
I'm happy to be a chameleon to a certain extent. I used to have a real thing about, like in post when you filter images, you put a certain colorway on them. That was really important to me about 2 years ago. But now I'm just kind of documenting it as is because we're getting a lot more requests for people to then change things in line with their own branding in
Mm.
post. So whether they want to put like graphic layovers on there, whether they want to make it selective color, let's hope not, or if they want to just go with desaturation, and then it gives them, by giving them the best perfectly balanced color, perfectly balanced light, nice sharpness. They then take that and turn it into their own visual asset. And from an artistic point of view, you have to kind of make your peace with that. But I think that that's more what the client demand is right now in my niche.
So what do you love most about being a photographer?
I love people. I love people. I could not be a product photographer for love nor money. I love doing the preamble into the shoot. Don't get me wrong, I love it with when I have a camera in my hand, but I love getting to the bottom of what makes a person tick. That is such an interesting thing to me. I'm a very curious person, and I love the idea of the human condition. We're all crazy. We're all nuts. And I love trying to think of a cool way to bring that out in business photography as well. So it's a lot of different themes going on for me, but I think overarching, it's people. It's just people and us being nut jobs on the earth.
So what are the, photography is an industry that's been changing a lot, like graphic design has been changing a lot. It's been very heavily influenced by the commoditization of design and the global economy, et cetera. Photography in particular, because, we all have a high resolution camera in our pocket at all times. And so everyone considers them, and with Instagram, everyone considers themselves to be a photographer these days. So how do you differentiate yourself or establish yourself as a authority in that space?
It's all about picking a micro niche and then maybe expanding that a little bit to a niche. So I am a business branded headshots photographer. I don't really shoot headshots for like child actors or headshots for professional singers. Those are all micro niches within the niche of headshots. So it wasn't like this when I first set up, but I've learned this from the school of hard knocks of being a business owner. It's much better to be a real expert and dominate within your micro niche. And then you can use all of your creative fuel to think of ways of how you can add value to a client who is investing in that. Because yes, let's face it, we can all shoot great selfies with our phone with very little technical know-how. So it's about elevating the professional photography onto a whole new plane. And I feel personally that it's just from micro niching it right down.
And one of the challenges about micro niching, and I know a lot of people who do that, is that when you do that, your client targets are narrower and narrower. So it's more challenging to find your perfect client. And when people throw out, the new business development net, the outreach net, they may capture a whole bunch of people who don't fit into their niche or aren't the people that we want to work with. And so it's more challenging to be very focused about your business development. How do you do that?
Oh, it's been a lot of trial and error. But what I've noticed is a lot of people come to me and they're like, Laura, I love your work. It's amazing. But I just can't swing that kind of investment in my business. Or maybe, you dial into that a little bit more and maybe they don't understand the value of that. So it's my job to become the authority on that and think of ways that I can help someone who's maybe at the startup stage. I'm there and I'm helping them learn how to do great selfies because they haven't got any budget. They've probably dropped all of their investment money on a website. And I want them to stick with me. So it's about expanding the things that I can offer as a branded headshots photographer to a wide group of people. And then the perfect dream clients kind of trickle through and get the best stuff, the photo shoot, the full day thing with all of the Fox Force 5 team, the stylists and all the rest of it. But I'm totally cool with serving less people on that photography because I can give it my all than being someone who's like a $50 headshots photographer and you're just banging them out. Like that gives me no creative sparks. I don't want to be that photographer. I'd much rather have this very long kind of line into shooting together.
So do you get a lot of repeat clients? Do you have kind of ongoing relationships?
We do a lot of work with retention. So like my clients get cute little birthday gifts, they get Christmas gifts. We do all of that after marketing. And we've just brought out a service actually called the Seasonal Slice Headshot Service. And that is for the clients who have been with me maybe once or twice to do headshots. But now I've kind of created these Frankenstein monsters. They want more. They need more. Their Instagram feed's looking a little tired. More photos. So this is where we do a mini shoot now every quarter of the year, and I can plan it with their marketing people. So it's exactly in line with what their marketing and promotional messages are, but it's like a reduced down tailored version. But by the end of the year, it's been a great adventure because I've been really invested in their business. So that's something that has come out of client demand and clients who have wanted to continue shooting with me, but they want to do it in a slightly different way to a full one-day shoot.
Well, and I think that that's, really applicable to all sorts of creative professions. It's like, how do we create a stream of business that's based on, to a certain extent, a repetitive retainer relationship,
yes,
rather than project-based, which is all feast or famine, right? So how do you create that reliable stream of revenue? And so that's a really interesting approach to it, that you've been able to a certain extent, create a seasonal productized version of what you do. Are you pretty unique in doing that?
I'd like to think so. I haven't taken inspiration from anyone. It's purely from client demand. And I thought, right, how can I serve these people better? Okay, let's bang out some mini shoots. But I know mini shoots is very common in the UK with the children's photography market. You have a baby and you want to have the baby photographed for every month of their first year. So that's something that happens a lot there, but trying to reinterpret that and thinking, how can I bring something like that into the headshot space now that the entrepreneur is like the rock and roll star? What can we do? So it's maybe that's where I got my inspiration from, and we've kind of packaged it up in a different way to suit the entrepreneur's needs.
That's brilliant. So how have you built your own brand? What are your particular brand touch points? Website? Are you on social? How do you present yourself to the world, and how have you built that?
Okay, so I'm happy to share my branding boo-boos with you. That's totally fine. When I first set up, I set out as this faceless like studio brand, and it was pen and photography, and I had these crazy little pairs illustrated. So there was like mama and baby pair, there was a family of pairs, there was a pair with a little veil on for weddings. I did everything I could to avoid putting myself at the forefront of my business. And then when I niched right down under the headshots, I only had one pair. So I was like, well, maybe it's time for me to be the face of my business. And I took a lot of inspiration from the likes of Rankin or Annie Leibovitz. When you go into a gallery of photography, there's usually just their name in like a Gothic font. And I thought, okay, well, that kind of makes sense. You've got to have, it has that arrogant air about it, I think, where it's like, oh, my work will speak for me. You don't need any flash graphics, but it's very stripped back. So that's the journey and the way that I've created my brand. I went with that Gothic Laura Pearman, but then I wanted to add a little bit of sass. So that's when we added the lips, the kiss. And over time, we've kind of built on that a little bit more. So I love the 50s. That's why I'm dressed like this. And we have that aesthetic coming in. And now I've got to a point where, you want to create more and more ideas. It's just an addictive thing, I think, when you're a creative mind. So now we bring out a seasonal collection of my services, but it's also like my seasonal prediction of what's going to happen, a bit like how a fashion designer has a spring summer collection and an autumn winter collection. That's what we do with our services. And that gives me a chance to like play around within this quite stripped back, quite bare branding. So that's my branding journey. In terms of my branding strategy, I am a big believer in content. I used to do shitloads of blogs every time. So I do a think piece blog that's like a quarterly, usually a rant about something very random, but it's something that I'm thinking about and how it's affecting me as an artist. But then every single session, I'd be writing 1,500, 2,000 blog words, and it's been killing me. I'm not going to lie. So we're making a shift now over to YouTube, and we're going to kind of reinterpret this 2,000 word blog for every client into a well-presented vlog and dominate more on video. I think we'll be keeping the think piece blogging because I just personally have a lot of fun creating that. And In terms of getting myself out there, I like to share my brand story by being a guest on shows like this, podcasts. Live events have been huge for me. They've really changed my awareness and my ability to capture a lot of ideas about what's going on with this tiny little pocket of the world. Yeah, website, the usual thing, the portfolio website. Those are mainly my things and ways that I get out there.
Do you have a following tribe? Do you do a lot of interaction with people who are following you, like on Instagram or social media? Or is it you're really just putting it out there into the world and then looking at that as an inbound kind of content marketing effort?
I have to say we've changed it now to the two-way. It used to be a lot of the one-way, like, look what I created, but that gets really boring. So we've built Selfie School last year, and we're still fleshing that out, and it's in its infancy. But Selfie School is very much where me and my tribe communicate with each other. So we're building the following for that. But the premise behind that, Philip, is helping people without the funds or the awareness of what headshots photography can do for their business and building up their self-confidence as an entrepreneur through the use of selfies. So we have like a private Facebook group for that. We do little challenges in there. And yeah, I'm hoping that that's really going to grow this year.
I find it absolutely fascinating that with a woman with your look who has such an awesome personal brand presence was hesitant to leverage that in her brand.
I know.
And that you hid behind pears for a period of time, and you had this amazing look, and you weren't like, because I mean you're like the perfect picture of a signature brand look. You're very consistent about it. You've had that look for the 2 years that I've known you, and it's incredibly differentiating. And, every person is different. And the more you can make your own humanity a little bit different, it just makes you even more differentiated than the rest and incredibly memorable. So, I mean, all branding is about being recognized, being remembered, being, revered. And so I just find it fascinating that you were so hesitant to do that, because I can see it as being like the, 500, the weight that is, driving the recognition of your brand now.
Yeah, totally. It is. It's, you're the girl with the quiff. Sometimes I get that, or you've got that crazy weird accent and the 50s thing. So tell me about that. And then we talk about how I've developed it in my brand. I have had a few people over the years, though, who say, so you just photograph business owners who are into 50s stuff. And I'm like, no, it's just that's me and my style. Let's celebrate your style. But I think back when I was the girl hiding behind the sketched out pears, I was a lot more wrung out, like, badly put together, because I was trying to kill myself delivering all of these different types of photography. It wasn't as concentrated. So it's been a journey, for sure. It's been a journey. Maybe I should dig out an old picture of me, like with the bags under my eyes, the lank hair, be like, this is what I started out looking like as a photographer, and this is what I look like now.
Yeah, before and after on your website. That'd be brilliant.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So have you had any mentors in your life? Are there anybody, in the public sphere, photographers or otherwise, that you find inspirational and that you try to pattern your business or your professional development after?
For sure. So I take inspiration from as wide and as weird an area as possible. So I love all of the old Hollywood starlets like Bette Davis. I love her attitude. She's like a queen bitch, isn't she? Total diva of her time. People like Dolly Parton really inspire me when it comes to business. Dolly Parton and Beyonce are two women who have got so much diversity within their personal brand. It's crazy, but they are all about being beautiful and embracing their feminine power as well, which is really, it really resonates with me. I take inspiration from the women in my family as well. So like my nanny and my grandma were very fierce women, very practical women who just got the job done. So I think that's kind of built into my DNA. I love to take inspiration from people in the fashion arena and rock stars as well. That's really, it really gives me like the inspiration tingles. In terms of mentors, though, I would love to meet my Yoda, but I just haven't met him yet. I would love like to be at one of these live events and just like a little wizened old guy or a little wizened old lady would be like, "It's okay, come with me. I'll take care of you now." But that hasn't happened yet. So right now I'm kind of working a lot on building up my virtual team. That has really helped me grow as a business owner, like being able to hand things off or just having like a really trustworthy, reliable bunch of people to sound ideas off. And also people who are brave enough to go, "Laura, just hang on, like that's crazy, no," or "Yeah, go for it." I think that has really helped me. So I've had a few business coaches over the years, but nothing that's really stuck. I get a lot of value from Youpreneur, that accountability, that I know that there's a place that I can go and ask some questions and there'll be a bunch of people who've probably been through it and can answer those questions. But in terms of the Yoda mentor, not yet.
Yeah. Well, maybe in 20 years you be that person.
I'll be the
Yoda,
yes.
You go to the conferences and you just like shuttle up to the young photographer and say, "I'm going to take you on the journey." Yeah. So talk a little bit about, you know, your virtual team. I'm sure as a photographer, you use lighting assistants, et cetera, stylists. But in terms of supporting you in your business, you know, as my agency practice grows, I'm starting to use video editors, and obviously I use designers and copywriters and stuff like that in my agency, but looking more into virtual assistants, things like that. Talk a little bit about kind of your extended team or where you need help and get help.
Sure. So prior to being a photographer, I was in the marketing world. So I thought that meant that I knew everything about marketing, which ain't the case.
We do. No, couldn't help myself.
No, hang on. We're good at telling other people what to do, but when it comes to looking in the mirror and figuring out where you're going wrong, you don't like to taste that medicine.
Cobbler's children have no shoes. That's truer in marketing and agency work than anywhere else in the world, I think.
So one of my most important and significant virtual hires was getting a marketing VA, and she's a sounding board for all of my wild madcap ideas. She's very good at reining me in. But one thing that she really dominates on is the analytics and the marketing metrics. So I was killing myself being the creative, putting out content on every social media platform, assuming that people were just getting it and people loved it because I loved it. But actually she got the numbers and she's like, "Laura, that ain't working. Just kill it. Just kill it. Stop killing yourself. Kill it." So we have become a lot more streamlined in the way that we're delivering our marketing message completely as a result of the numbers. So I would be lost without that VA. I have a VA who
is she is the one, your marketing VA, is she local or is she virtual somewhere?
She is local, but we hardly ever see each other in the flesh. We usually just send a billion voice bubbles back and forth on our phone, and we have a call once a week. Occasionally, we might meet for lunch, but it is usually all online. Okay. Same goes for my email VA. So she manages my inbox for me, and I love the idea of the Devil Wears Prada, and she commands this one list a day, and that's my dream with email or any DMs for that matter. I want to have this one sheet of paper that I decide whether I'm going to respond to it or not. So that's where we're going with that. She's sorting out my email and she's helping me reduce that right back, and we're getting into the DM side of things together. I have a video editor like you. I think he's in Thailand. Lovely guy. He knows exactly what I want. He does the job perfectly. I have a retouching agency in Vietnam. And initially that was a little bit of we had some teething problems, and I think a lot of it was due to being lost in translation. But now we are completely in the groove, and I can't tell you the amount of time that has saved me. You just don't realize it. Like when you get into retouching, we used to call it when I was
this is post on all your client work.
Yeah, post on everything, even post on my work, my headshots of me. I'm like, do it. But it took me a long time to get there, and I really was like, no, you're not really the artist if you don't see it from the beginning to the end. Occasionally, if a client has a really specific aesthetic, I'll retouch one image from their final collection so that the team can see, the layered version of how I want that image to be retouched across the collection. But just handing that off, so much time has been saved, and they can do it a lot better than me a lot of the time.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's a win-win.
There you go.
I have a virtual assistant who does graphic design. So she helps me with this brochure that I was telling you about. And we're kind of building that out now into my lead magnets and the work that we're doing on Selfie School. Yeah, she can do everything way better than I can. And I find by having someone on the team virtually, they know the vibe, they know the style, they probably can make a lot of predictions as opposed to hiring somebody piecemeal. I think even if you hire the same graphic designer in a piecemeal way, it's very disconnected. I think as a creative, I think it's really great to work with other creatives, but in this shared space. So I love nothing more. This is diverting a little bit. I will get back to the virtual assistants. I love working with repeat creatives, like website designers. I have a lot of cool relationships with web designers, and they'll be working on a client's website, but then they can call me and we kind of work together on behalf of the client. So we can go back and present to the client as a shared team of creatives. That has been really helpful. So I love having that idea in my business, and I'm trying to do that more with my virtual people. I have a web designer, I have an accountant, I have a travel person now who does all my travel bookings. And gradually, I want to build out my photography assistant team. I need a photography assistant who's happy to travel with me to help me with all the equipment side of things. And then, yes, like you said, we have the Fox Force 5 team, which is hair people, makeup people, stylists, and they come in under my brand to help me serve the clients.
So what kind of hurdles did you have or have you had coming up in your career that could prove as talking points to help other photographers kind of bulletproof their careers?
Okay, so first thing is pricing, man. It took me a couple of years to get my head around it. So I am a perfectionist creative. I like to do everything in a really, really good way. And I thought that was just my problem. Like, that's just my problem. You're just going to have to swallow it down and charge the money that everyone else in the area or everyone else in this arena charges. That is not the case. So if you're watching this now and you're wondering why you're broke and living on ramen noodles and you are amazing at what it is you do, it's because you haven't figured out your pricing. Now, I actually hired a sales and pricing specialist. I think it was like £200 or something like that. But that completely changed my business. And I understood how you build out packages. And my instinct is, of course, we're going to shoot for a whole day. And of course, I'm going to scout 4 locations. And you're probably going to need 5 or 6 outfits if you really want to get the best use of my time. And to me, that was just what I thought everyone should get, regardless of how much money they gave me. But this sales specialist was like, okay, Laura, that's the ultimate offering. What can we take away to make it a little less, a little less, and a little less? So now I feel really confident and empowered with my packages. I've curated them. And if somebody has any questions about them, it's cool. I feel totally calm to talk about them, and it doesn't feel like you're in this icky sales place. So I came up through the portrait photography studio model, and the model in the UK, I'm not sure if it's the same there in the States, but you get them in cheap, like 25 quid, 30 quid to come in and use the studio. So they come in, they bring their family, the kids, they all go crazy. You hopefully capture something within that hour, and then they go away. And then you get to work on preparing the images. So that's a good couple of hours, free. Then you have them in for a viewing session, you give them coffee, cakes, and then you have to go into this horrible sales pitch that they've been dreading and you've been dreading, and everyone feels awkward and horrible. And then if they leave and they haven't bought anything, you are still in the hole because you haven't even covered the work that you've already done, the cakes, the coffee, the cleaning up after the children. So it's just a nightmare model. And I think because I came up with that model, I didn't know anything else. So pricing was just like this alien thing to me. I knew that it had to be changed, but I didn't know what the options were.
Where did you find a pricing specialist who understood your industry?
In my local area, it was purely like a word of mouth situation. I have actually seen a lot of, well, there's probably like 2 or 3 female photographers that I can think of who have one of these like online photography business schools. And I did maybe 2 or 3 courses on pricing with these different people, and it never kind of clicked for me. So they would start out and say, okay, so what do you want to earn in a year? I'm like, well, how can I ever begin to answer that? Because my business is broken. Like I was in panic mode. And they'd say, okay, so let's just say you want to earn, $65,000 and this is how you break it down. I'm thinking, well, it just didn't click for me. I had to come at it the other way and think, right, what is it that I'm giving as a photographer, right? And how can we monetize that?
Mm-hmm. And so in bulletproofing other people's careers, you would say figure your pricing out. And I would think that is attached very much to, your differentiation and whatever your particular power is, because that's what you're going to be able to charge more for, right?
Yes. So a lot of photographers make this mistake. I made the mistake myself, but I see a lot of photographers, you go on their Instagram and it's like, portrait artist inspired by the light, families, babies, weddings, headshots. No, pick the one thing that really makes you feel like you're the reason of being on this earth with a camera, and just shoot that. And every time I say that to a photographer who approaches me, they're like, yeah, but I can't let them go. And it's like, no, you can't. Like, it took me maybe 2 years to ditch everything. And the first thing I lost off my list was weddings, because I just hated going to weddings. It's just not my vibe. That's it. So it was easy to get rid of that. But I loved working with babies and kids, and it was hard to get rid of it. But I'm telling you, the minute I did, and the minute I micro niched it down and figured out my pricing, there was no stopping me.
So this has been awesome. I always end my interviews with one question, and that is, do you have a personal manifesto or a mantra that you try to live your life by?
Yeah, I do, and I've written these down. I'm actually turning one of these into a cross stitch to go on my wall here in the office. So the first one, I think it's like a family saying, but a lot of people say it as well. If it was easy, everyone would have done it. That's one that we often say to each other. And the one that's going to be a little cross stitch on my wall is, you're doing your bloody best.
I love it. I love it. And we all do, right? Hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where can people find you?
So I've got a few different things. So my YouTube channel, if it's cool, we can do a link to that in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, I play a lot on Instagram. So come and see me on Instagram. Again, we can give the guys a link. I love to chat. I love to be silly on stories as well. So come and check out my stories. I didn't know if it would be cool to share this, but I have a free guide for people who are tuning in today.
Sure.
And I thought the best one would be how to plan your own headshot session in 6 months. So this is a perfect one if you're a creative and you just keep putting it off, like you're procrastinating on it. But also it's a really good one if you want to take a DIY approach and you want to do it yourself. It kind of shows you the project management that goes into doing a headshot session.
Do you want to announce the URL for that? I'll link to it in the description, but if you have it on hand, you could announce it if you know it.
I'll do a little personalized Bitly link for us.
Okay. All right.
Yeah?
That's perfect. Well, Laura, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank
you.
I
encourage everyone to go to laurapearman.com and check out her work. It's absolutely fabulous as she is in person. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.